All right. Oh, combo vlog. I work tonight. Um, Yesterday was a dark day. I have a sick cat. I really don't want to talk about it. It's not good. Pray for Steve. Um, Yesterday there was a House Oversight Committee hearing. I mentioned this in a video that I think I then didn't upload. Um, Sorry. So basically, there was a United States House of Representatives Oversight and Reform Committee, which is currently Democrat chaired. And they had members of the Maricopa County Board of Election Supervisors as witnesses. And the opposition half, the Republican side, had Ken Bennett, who is a former Arizona state senator. He was a former state Senate president, former Arizona congressman, I believe, as well, possibly a mayor. But he also has some infotech and accounting type statistics experience. He runs a business that does some sort of similar thing. Actually qualified. But I did hear that he kind of let slip early on, midway through the thing, that there was some things he talked about that he really wasn't supposed to. Seen at least one commentator mention that it doesn't feel the guy is necessarily trustworthy because of that, and I'm not sure that's really the case. I don't think he leaked anything that was incorrect or anything. I think he just was like, what we're seeing is big, and it's like, dude, you can't even talk about it until it's done. Whatever it was, he's not persona non grata with the Arizona State Senate or any of them. So basically, what happened was the hearing itself. Okay, here's how it works. They schedule the docket. The docket is an agenda of things they're going to talk about for each day, for each session within the committees. Oftentimes, legislation is made and occasionally passed simply in committee, and it just usually most things will have to come to like a full vote. And a lot of the time, when they'll like be in committee and they'll be like, okay, well, we got to take a recess for a full vote, they literally will step out in the hallway, take a count of heads, take the vote with their assistants, with an official witness present or whatever, back to work. They don't always go into the Great Hall for everybody to like sit there, get their name count, raise their hand. Okay, the ayes have it, the nays don't, whatever. But they do this throughout the day while they're in committee. But the real work is done in committees. If you didn't know that, that's what it is. The real legislative work is done in committees. The full session with 435 egos, publicly elected narcissists, psychopaths, and some good people, gets nothing done. Committees are where it's at. Sometimes committees get nothing done because they are too evenly stacked for both sides. They tend to be roughly 50-50, and when that happens, you get a lot of posturing and a lot of talk and a lot of things said on record. And ultimately, if there's a decision to be come to, the majority will take it. Whichever side is the majority, it will be narrow and partisan just about every time, unless it's something of particular, they come together for a thing. And then it's like, well, if you see both wings of that beast coming together in the act of friendship and cooperation, you know something's bad. But it gets really boring and stupid and mired down with, well, the other side, the opposition, the other side of the aisle, the other team. And it's like, dude, shut up. And that was what happened here. So here's what I'm getting at. Each of these is kind of like a program or a report being generated in real time by people. And so you will have your committee hearing has a title. It has a date and a time and a schedule, a list of guests, which typically doesn't change because they're very, very strict. And if somebody says they're going to show and doesn't, they better have damn good reason. There's all kinds of stuff. So this one, in the title, refers to it's like examining the highly partisan, dark money funded, quote, literally in quotes, audit, forensic audit in Maricopa County, Arizona, or something such similar. That's generally it's like scientific papers. There will be some big clunky, supposedly precise thing, and at the same time you'll get many things that are the opposite of what they claim to be, and then other times it's basically exactly what it is, but there's an agenda, there is a script. This is not a dialogue. This is simply we're going to play, act, and perform the appearance of a hearing. Ultimately, what it comes to is that whatever is voted on, agreed to, stated under oath, goes into the congressional record. The congressional record, therefore, becomes kind of the historical record for the United States government as far as things that are discussed, issues of the time. You will find, aside from papers like letters, books, or dissertations that are basically, written for a specific political purpose. My teapot's about to boil. You will oftentimes find most of the relevant political quotes are either going to come from Supreme Court decisions as far as topics or things and reasons why they did what they did, or you're going to have some sort of congressional debate where an impassioned speech gets a little bit taken out of it, and that's where it's, X and X so-and-so in 1836 said this. That came about greatly with the impeachments of Donald Trump, that they referred to quotes from 180, 150, whatever year old Congress, BRB. Okay, so to begin with, this committee meeting, this hearing on the audit report, had a slanted title from the start. Thankfully, someone from the audit team, the one side of the argument, did appear. However, as is typical, you are basically going to have the majority side claiming that the witness for the minority side is both in punditry and in the oppositional dialogue in Congress. They're going to talk about the fact that this is, this guy's partisan and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but this guy is frequently, often, repeatedly, until he retired from politics, was elected into position by his constituents, and they seemed happy with him. He retired. He was not voted out. And as Congress people, they should respect that. There should be a level of decorum to that. However, these days, that is simply not the case. They referred to the Cyber Ninjas team company as the Ninja Turtles. I can imagine if, and maybe I did say something about this and it did get in our previous video, so let me know if I've repeated myself. If somebody from the Republican half of that committee was to crack a joke about Dominion, call them the Dumb Onion Company, or allude to the fact that their Dominion is iron-fisted grip and the rule thereby. Funny symbol that is, isn't it? So, anything to do with the outward appearance of that company is something that can pretty much be, jokingly, well, we can use quotes too, jokingly referred to as an allusion to totalitarian control by fraudulent manufacture of consent and consensus. If they had said or done anything like that in that committee meeting, somebody on the majority side would be like, hey, decorum, pop, 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 you can't. But obviously they can do it themselves. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds, which is unfortunate. But it was really cool to see that at least one representative, I'm going to find out who in that, if there is anybody else from Arizona in that committee, or if that dude was the only representative in that committee. But there is a dude from Arizona who is on the oversight committee. believe his last name is Biggs. He is a Republican. I never once heard him chirp about, that I've seen on any of the things he talking about God, guns, country, none of that. He's simply asking questions about the specifics. This is like a legit guy who simply runs on the red platform because he don't want to be associated with those other guys. I think that's what's going on there. Arizona is one of those states that has a lot of that. New Hampshire's like that. West Virginia's like that. Joe Manchin could have run as a Republican and might have, still got elected. So this dude, Biggs, asked a line of question. It's been circulated, don't know if you've seen it. The general gist being, he manages to catch a couple of contradictions, and this guy, bless his soul, and I mean that in a real unironic and non-sarcastic way. This dude invoked logic by name. And he says, he refers to assertions that they make. He says, you assert this. However, he says, you cannot hold these two ideas to be true at the same time. It is a contradiction. It is a logical fallacy to believe that it could be done so. That. And the dude said it. He said it. Other commentators have been saying it. When's one of these people going to say, look, dude, seriously, this is what it is? Well, here's a guy from Arizona who did. And he did it in United States Congress on the record. And they were like, we'll get an answer for you on that. He pointed out two major contradictions and one potential lie. The potential lie was when they said that there was information deleted from the thing before it was provided per subpoena on the servers, and they said, well, we had old information we had to clear out just after the election or whatever that we did, and okay, there's a law that says everything must be preserved for 22 months. Oh, well, we archived it. Okay. Why didn't you turn over the archive or even tell them that there was an archive? Well, it wasn't in the subpoena. By name. So this representative says, okay, so is it standard process that you do this? I don't know, I'll get back to you. Circle back. Both of them said that. Ultimately, the guy that is there a reporter who has his own conspicuous issues and other things, a guy named Richer, you see a dude with the horseshoe floof, Bernie with the receding hairline in red hair, that's him. He's had issues. He's stepped in it a few times already. He ought not be in a job, but at the same time, keeping him in his position, the state has the right to subpoena him at any time. And he has no ability to refuse compulsion. He must appear as a government employee. He had an issue with one of the other people that was running the election and ended up convincing the Board of Supervisors to appoint somebody to oversee the guy whose job it was to oversee because they didn't trust him. So the guys who were pretty sure cheated hired someone to oversee a guy that they didn't trust. But that guy wasn't actually, but he had questions and concerns at the start, but he wasn't really a good guy. So anyways, the lie gets pointed out because he says, okay, but can you then tell me why there's other previous election information still on the machine? Just certain stuff was deleted. Oh, and archived. Okay, but you didn't turn it over. So right there, kind of tell me you're lying without telling me you're lying, right? So contradiction number one that he points out is that they had these people that, even amongst themselves couldn't trust each other, but that he's like, you can't, if it's either it's standard procedure and everything needs to be off of that, why is there other stuff on it? Or it's not standard procedure, why did you take things off of it? This is what we're coming to on that one. It's an odd contradiction, but it is one. The second, the major one, the big mic drop was when he literally pointed out, this is the thing that was like, why don't more people, like pundits and comedians are talking about it, independent channels that if you try and share it, they won't let anyone see it, so it's hard to convey. And you can tell it to other people yourself, but they may or may not listen. But on the record, the official historic record of It's in print. No one will know what the sarcasm is or anything else. Careful with your words. This guy says, okay, so you have said that by cherry picking from it, that this line from the report validates the election count. Therefore, this is a non-issue. We shouldn't even be doing this. And on the other hand, you're saying that this process and this audit invalidates the democratic process and is a sham. Which is it? You cannot have both at the same time. Either this audit and its report is untrustworthy, or it is trustworthy. You can't pick and choose and say, well, see, this here says that we're right, and see, this here says that it's wrong. That, he said directly, is a logical inconsistency, a fallacy of logic. You cannot have both, and your assertions do not align with the report. So, I guess what I'm waiting to see is, will they be able to prove that these people have perjured themselves? Will the information that they are supposed to provide be provided in a timely fashion? Will Mr. Richer further appear before the Oversight Committee for questioning? Will anyone else from the audit or the Arizona State Senate appear? And, you know, like, what will that bring? Because, I mean, the other thing is, in these committees, oftentimes, they, you know, are all bark and no bite. They'll, and they get their sound bites and their election, you know, he fought for your election integrity, and then they sound bite him. You can't have both, buddy. So, you know, it's a wait and see, like all things. But simultaneously, we should be seeing something soon, before the end of the year, I hope, on some criminal prosecutions from the Arizona State Attorney General, because that one lady, for the one thing in August, and a compatriot, the person that allowed her to do it with their ballot or whatever, that is not enough action taken. Everyone who perpetrated something significant in this previous election needs to be held to account in all legal fashion. If that doesn't happen, we don't have a government, we don't have a country. We've already let politicians get away with all of the stuff they get away with. There is obviously a dual class thing, and now they're putting on this fascist censorship and dictatorship all around the world. And the point at which even our process of electing our leaders is no longer valid, if that is proven to be the case. And I'm not talking about proving in a court of law. The court of law of a fascist country is going to say, nope, it's obviously fine. Move along. Lock up everybody that questioned it. In the literal shoot them for disagreeing version, that's how that goes. Right now, what we've got is people effectively being unpersoned, shadow banned, discouraged, dehumanized, vilified, demonized. But what they did uncover is that there was a lot of stuff that's not okay in that process. And we should really be like, boy, can we trust that? Are we sure that's going to hold water? Or is it just going to go as soon as you put any weight on it? The weight being pressing for logical consistency and verification. The weight would be getting the final information they need to be able to then adjust by removing known bad ballots and then recounting. Would that come to pass and nothing whatsoever of any significance be done about it? Virtue signaling, lip service, that kind of thing, if that's all it is, then we don't have a government. We have rulers. It is not a democracy nor a republic. It is a fiefdom, an oligarch-driven fiefdom. But we, the serfs, do not follow the same rules as the aristocrats. That's what that will be. And everywhere that it has gotten like that, ultimately has gotten to what happened in France, what happened in Russia. Tsar Nicholas, right? The whole French Revolution, the repeated revolutions. We don't want that here. But the longer they attempt to subvert our own, what you call the American ideal, the consent of the governed, not the rule based on authority model. If they are able to eliminate that through legal means, they have no authority if they're not enforcing the law. I mean, the double standards negate the rule of law, period. That's what it comes to. But I've said this so many times for so many other aspects of things, and it's like, no, but seriously, we vote, that determines things like the mayor, that determines things like the sheriff, that determines things like the county prosecutor, that determines things like your county supervisors, including a county board of supervisors for elections. All of these things, these are elected positions. And if the election process is bogus, then all of these people in all these positions that make their decrees, they run the show, they say, well, these are the rules, and as far as we're able to exert our influence, you must do this, this, and this, unless this. And then after a while, it's like, okay, well, even though that, you still got to do this. Obey. Obedience. Obey. I'm describing what they've been doing. If that process is not legit to put them into power, they have no right to be there. They have no actual authority. And the only authority given to them is that by the people who are willing to obey or are afraid of coercion. It's just people saying, I'm the boss, do as I say. That's like having a piece of paper that says, I can do what I want with my own signature on it. That's more valid. If the elections aren't real, let me see your papers. Sure thing. So, it's very important that something be done about the election process first and foremost. Then we need to seriously have something be done about the corruption in politics. Both money and dishonesty, ulterior agendas, skirting the rules. I think if you're an elected government, you should be under 24-hour recorded surveillance, all of which is public record, even when you fuck. So there can be no question as to the ethical or humane or non-deviant behavior that an elected official needs to conduct themselves by while in a position of power. Maybe something like that would force people to be a little better at it, whatever. But as it is, these Maricopa people have obviously made it clear that anything that they don't have to provide, they won't, etc., etc. This means it's harder to get to the truth. And the truth is the thing everybody should be after, not some bullshit. I'm going to call it good there. To bookend what I began with, I'm going to put my PayPal link in the description. If anybody that sees this would like to help, I may have to have one of my cats put to sleep within a week or two unless I can figure out somehow that what is causing his anemia is something else. But he's lost too much weight. His red blood cell count was extremely low, and I really at this point can't even afford to go to another less expensive vet for a second opinion. I don't want to just put my cat down because I've heard things about the shelter I went, or the place I went to, that they sometimes do that. But in the meantime, I've unfortunately got this boy cat that is skin and bones and barely wants to move. I can kind of get him to eat sometimes, but not always. And according to the tests they gave him, from the blood, his white count is normal, slightly elevated. His red count is dreadfully low, but he's gotten used to it, which means it's been this way for a while. And because they couldn't find any issues with kidneys or digestive or anything else, according to this one vet at least, he thinks it's probably leukemia. So, I'll put the link below if anybody has anything that they can contribute to help me take care of him. I will provide receipts in video or email or in person, depending on where you're at and how we do things. Appreciate any help that I can get. I'm not asking for anything beyond what anybody can afford to. So if you can't, that's cool too. Pray, please pray. If you have any suggestions or ideas, anything, leave them in the comments below. He's extremely anemic, but it's really only his red blood cell count that seems to be down. He's dehydrated. He's barely eating, he's barely moving, but his spirits are good. So, I don't know. That is what it is. Meantime, the world is still on fire, unfortunately. I have to deal with all of it. I'll get this uploaded when I go to work tonight.